morning again. My name is Jessica Smith-Lennon, and I am the Communication and Community Engagement Senior Manager with the 11th Street Bridge Park team. We are very excited to have everyone here to celebrate and also to announce our latest progress with the 11th Street Bridge Park. Before we get started, I want to do a couple of shameless plugs for continued engagement with many of you all. First being this summer, we are back doing our walking tours. The next one will be in July. It will be July 20th specifically. It's every third Wednesday of the month up until September. And in the fall, you can look forward to a public meeting as well as the Taste of the Harvest Festival. We'll be returning to a similar format, not exactly the same, but a similar format to what we've had in previous years. And for additional information, of course, visit our website at bridgepark.org. If you want to continue to stay updated through email, you can go to bridgepark.org/email and sign up for our weekly e-blast, where we also share our construction progress, events, and different programs that we may have. Once again, for those who are joining us, you will be able to ask questions towards the end of the program, but you may use or submit your questions in the Q&A feature, which is Q&A feature, which is below, as well as the raise hand feature. And now I would like to turn the program over so we can get started to what you guys are all here for, to Scott Kratz.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see everybody virtually. I'm very excited to share our news today of our 4 commissioned artists for 2022. And so how we're going to run this, I'm going to provide a little bit of background on the park for those who might not be as familiar. Talk a little bit about some of our arts and culture strategies, really frame this announcement within our larger investments in the communities near the Bridge Park. And then most importantly, I'm going to turn things over to the amazing artists who are going to be sharing their visions with you today. And then we'll be happy to take any questions. So with that, I am going to share my screen. All right. Hopefully everybody can see this. Great, I'm seeing nods of heads. Whoops, and of course it started at the end. Let's try this one more time. There we go. So most people know, but the 11th Street Bridge Park is a project of building bridges across the river. We are a East of the River nonprofit that runs the ARC here on Mississippi Avenue. We run a network of 7 urban farms, the Skyline Workforce Center, and our largest project to date is a collaboration with the city, with the district government, to transform an old, aged out freeway into a park, the 11th Street Bridge Park. This point of crossing has been a transit point for the last 300-400 years. But at the same time, the river has been this real dividing point for generations on both sides of the river. So when we started this project nearly 10 years ago, we started with 4 key goals. These have been the 4 table legs that the entire project has stood on: improving public health, re-engaging residents with the river, with this forgotten amazing natural resource of the Anacostia River, creating a physical and metaphorical bridge between long divided communities, and finally being an anchor not just for economic growth, but equitable and inclusive growth, making sure that local residents who've shaped this project from the beginning can be the ones that can benefit from it, long-term DC residents. So when we started this project, we spent over 2 years just talking to local residents of what kind of programming would want to be on the park. We had over 200 meetings those first 2 years. We've had over 1,000 meetings so far to date with the community. And these are the programming ideas that the community asked for: public art that can amplify the voices of local residents, performance space at 250-person amphitheater, a space that can inspire the next generation of river stewards, access to the river, urban agriculture, a 21st century play space that we call Muscle Beach, and a cafe and restaurant. So we took all these ideas in 2014 and we launched a international design competition, had some of the best design teams in the country on this planet actually participate. And as we've done with every major decision, we made sure that the community was there helping to make these decisions as much as we can. We try and put decision-making power back in the hands of local residents. And so we had a group of about 36 local stakeholders participate in the design competition. And at the end of this 8-month design competition, the community selected the amazing design by the architect of OMA and the landscape architect of Olin. And their design incorporated all of these programmatic activities and these sort of two trusses that come together and meet sort of right in the middle. And to give you a sense of scale, this is about the size of 3 football fields stacked end to end to end, all told about 7 acres of the new park space. We will be at 100% design by this summer and begin soliciting our general contractor with the aim to break ground early next year and then open in the first half of 2025, which is very exciting. But in addition to investing in this physical infrastructure of the park, it was also really important to make sure that we were framing this as an investment in the broader community. So back in 2015, we worked with hundreds and hundreds of local stakeholders and faith leaders and nonprofits and city agencies to create something that we called an equitable development plan. And it's important to frame this announcement as part of our larger equitable development strategies, particularly on our arts and culture strategies, to really amplify the voices of local residents. And that's what we've been doing over the last several months, working with local stakeholders to solicit and then select art for the park. So at the end of last year, we began our first major art commission. We were very pleased in February of this year to announce the selection by Jackson Jarvis Studio, a mother-daughter duo. They have Martha Jackson Jarvis and Nagina Sure Jarvis, who had their winning design. Selected design was this large art installation that will anchor the east side of the river called Anacostia Sunrise Sunset Portals. 11, 12 to 15 giant aluminum circles that will be right at near the intersection of Good Hope Road and Anacostia Drive. And today we are very excited to share our next 4 art commissions. A commission for our Hammock Grove, our Navy Yard Landing light installation, a giant mural, and a small business kiosk. So you can see sort of where each of those areas are going to be. The Jackson Jarvis Studios, the Anacostia Sunrise Sunset Portals is just off to the right, in what is now currently Anacostia Park. We'd like to give deep gratitude to our nominating committee, who helped solicit the over 60 participants as part of this larger art commission. And even more importantly, we'd like to thank the Curatorial Committee, who were with us from the beginning for both the commission that we announced earlier this year and the commissions that you'll hear about today, who reviewed all of the art commissions, selected the top 3 art submissions, and then over the course of several months, heard presentations from each of the artists that you'll hear from today, and selected the designs for these 4 art pieces. We'd also like to thank Forecast, a public art consulting firm, who helped coordinate all of the art commissions, as well as Irfana Jetanarani, a consultant who's helped lead this effort from the beginning. And now I am very happy to start with our first of 4 presentations today with our Hammock Grove. So Sarita, take it away.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarita C. I'm working in collaboration with Aliana Grace Bailey and Raya Beckett. And together we bring expertise in surface pattern design, weaving, fashion design, community activism, and installation to produce Hammock Grove at the 11th Street Bridge Park. I personally have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Fashion Design and absolutely love the blend of aesthetic and functionality. Aliana Grace is an amazing visual artist and textile artist as well. And Rhea is the founder and director at Black Artist Research Space. So we're so excited to work in collaboration, not only with the 11th Street Bridge Park Committee, but also all of our fellow artists who are working on this project to bring this together for the community. Next slide. We all have roots in DC, actually. Aliana is a DC native, born and raised. Many of Rhea's fondest childhood memories are visiting relatives and close family and friends in DC in the 90s and early 2000s. And I myself was born in DC and raised in Maryland. Our approach for Hammock Grove is community focused, honoring cultural legacy, healing gentrification wounds, and centering Black communities. We and current residents already understand the value here, which is, I think, an incredibly big part of the project. And we're excited that the nonprofit is keeping this such a community-focused project. And our goal is for DC natives and long-term residents to feel seen. The local community will help shape Hammock Grove from beginning to end. And we want to ensure this intention is felt by DC through the end product and for years to come as they use this. Anacostia Park is actually one of my favorite places to bike. So the two photos that you see in the slide to your left, especially the bottom one, always sort of moved me whenever I rode my bike through this, what I call like a metropolis. But at the very beginning of the park, there's like a little uncommissioned street art graffiti, but it says, yes, there is more here. So we're really excited to take what's already seen by our community and uplift it, make it that much more beautiful. I already see this as a link to so many other neighborhoods in the city, and also a link to so many different activities, recreation, and people. And we're excited to take that and invest in it and bring it more to life. Next slide. We believe community art is made best with the community, of course. So the hammocks will reflect experiences of the community through direct engagement and participation. We're doing workshops, community events, and hosting digital spaces to collect narratives from different natives and residents of the community. Through this project, we will be able to engage, collect local stories, and preserve oral histories while creating art with community members. Our intention is for each hammock to have a unique and special color scheme to honor a specific theme, story, or place relevant to DC culture. The hammock post will feature collage, which will be created digitally through typography and photographs. And each of those collages will be relevant to the hammock's theme. The colorfully woven hammocks will also offer community members access to the space for mental wellness, a community resting place, and one for general relaxation and taking a moment from the day. We're incredibly excited and honored to be a part of this project, and we look forward to working with you all in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarita. And when we are done with all of these, we'll have a chance to ask questions of each of the artists individually. But moving on to the next commission, will be a large lighted sculptural piece that will be hung underneath the bridge park itself at the Navy Yard Landing. And I'd like to turn things over to Becky. Oh, Becky, you might be frozen. There you are.
Oh, okay. Hi. Back. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Becky Borland. I'm a Baltimore-based artist and sculptor. But back in 2016, I lived in Northeast DC, and I didn't have a car, so I would bike everywhere. And one of my favorite memories was biking along the Riverside Trail next to the Anacostia. And that's where I got the inspiration for the Navy Yard Landing sculpture. It's called biophilia, which means the innate human instinct to connect with nature and other living beings. And for me personally, I was just so drawn to the lushness and diversity of plant life that I found growing along the banks of the Anacostia that I would get off my bike and just explore the shoreline. And so that experience deeply informed my artwork for the 11th Street Bridge Park. Next slide. So my project actually has two parts. The first part is a community engagement component where I will be leading people in creating cyanotypes using wild plants foraged from the Anacostia. Cyanotypes are one of the oldest forms of photographic image making. You basically take a piece of light sensitive paper, place an object on top, and let it sit in the sun for a few minutes. And you're left with a really beautiful blue and white outline of your object. And this all happens very quickly. So it has this magical quality to it, like watching a Polaroid develop. And I'm very excited to share this process with the community because in the end, they will get to take home their cyanotype and have this piece of art inspired by the Anacostia River that they helped create. Next slide. So during the cyanotype process, I will be documenting the artworks that we make and using them for the second part of the project, which is making the actual sculpture. Basically, I'll be taking the outlines we make using the cyanotypes and use those as the basis to create these very detailed plant cutouts using a laser cutter. And I'll be cutting these images into mirrored acrylic, which is going to bring color and reflect movement and light. Next slide. So light is always a very important part of my work, how it interacts with my materials, the shadows it creates. But up until now, I've only been able to use natural light. So part of why this project is really exciting for me is that it's the first time I'm doing an LED lighted sculpture that will have a significant presence at night. We're going to create a special lighting program so that at night we can activate this underpass space and transform it from something dark and forbidding to a place where you can have this mesmerizing encounter and be engulfed by these different shadows and colors and plant forms. It's really such an honor to be part of this project and be in collaboration with all these other incredible artists. And I'm very excited to contribute this artwork to the DC community. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Our next artist is a team. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Things just froze. Oh, technology. Our next is let's see if I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second and see if I can get this back up. Okay, get it up, right. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Okay. All right, our next, the art is a giant mural that will anchor the west side of the river near the Navy Yard. So let me introduce Mickey and Nicole.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mickey DeMoss. I'm an artist who's from and currently based out of Maryland. And my art primarily focuses on using the portrait as a vehicle to generate deeper understanding of person and community.
And hi, I'm Nicole Bourget, and I'm also a portrait artist at heart. My mural projects mainly focus on themes of attention and interconnection. I'm also a runner and a mother of 5, so I'm really passionate about public spaces and having access to nature. So we're really excited about this project.
Next slide, please. As an all-female team, we wanted to tell a story with this mural about educating and providing the community for the community using the riches of Mother Earth.
Okay. So our land is a recognition of the people who have cared and are still caring for the bridge park will be constructed.
It is also a welcome to all communities to enjoy and protect our precious natural resources.
Next slide, please. The indigenous people of this region along the Anacostia River farmed, fished, and hunted the land where the bridge park will be constructed long before European settlers forced them to flee and be absorbed into a neighboring tribe. Excuse me. Our mural design depicts 2 members of the Piscataway Maori tribe, Chief Jesse James Swan Jr. and Julie Tyak Yates, Piscataway Indian Nation matriarch and daughter of the former Chief Turkey Tyak. While Mickey and I knew that we wanted to acknowledge and honor the region's native people with this design, we found a surprising lack of information on the tribe that was not from the colonizer's perspective. Growing up in the DMV, we didn't learn a lot about the area's indigenous people, nothing really, actually. And we knew for this mural, we wanted to paint accurate representations of those members, and that meant having Native consults on the project. Research for this design led us on a really unexpected journey from the Library of Congress, community gathering places and museums, to rallies with the tribe members, and even a visit to the Congressional Cemetery, where members of the tribe have been buried. We were even gifted by Julie Tyak a pair of earrings that she made us. We are really excited about how much we've learned in this process about the traditions of the tribe, their clothing, the historical significance of native crops, the struggle for land rights, and more. And we look forward to community engagement around this mural, including a tobacco blessing ceremony by the tribe. And we hope that this project is an opportunity for the larger community to also learn more about them. Next slide, please.
So we asked ourselves where to begin when conceptualizing this mural idea. And we thought that we were going to the 11th Street Bridge site, but our GPS had other plans. So we accidentally end up at a place known as the Arc. And we met JJ Boone. Again, we thought we were in the wrong place. But as we began to talk to JJ, we realized that we were exactly where we needed to be. So JJ told us with excitement that he is the senior farm manager at the Arc Farm. And the Arc Farm is special because it is located in Ward 8. Ward 8 is home to as many as 80,000 residents, but unfortunately they only have access to one grocery store. And so that's where the Arc Farm comes in. He is from this area, so he's very passionate about providing affordable produce and educating his community on that produce. So as we talked to him further, we asked him what his favorite part of this job was, this unique job was as caretaker of land and community. And he begins to tell us about the pawpaw tree, which is unbeknownst to us, a native plant. And he says what a lot of people don't know is how it's pollinated. It doesn't pollinate itself. You actually have to apply pollen with a brush. And he said that is his favorite part of the whole process, and watching that tree grow and bear fruit that he can then give to his community to enjoy, a fruit that is also his favorite and that he looks forward to, was amazing. And as he came alive telling this story, we knew that we had part of the puzzle when it came to piecing together our concept. And this planted the seed for this concept. JJ also recounts a story of when he was younger, growing up in Ward 8, he took up an interest in fashion. He loved clothes, he loved shapes, he loved high fashion. But he knew that it was something that not only he, but the members of his community did not have access to, could not afford. So he began to create his own affordable fashion line that is still up and running, and he uses it to clothe not only his friends and family, but members of his community who also want to look and feel good. Next.
So really, this mural is a story about cultivating abundant public spaces where all communities are welcomed to gather and enjoy nature. In caring for our land and native species and precious natural resources, we believe that we care for each other.
This brought us on an unexpected journey. Like we said, we thought we were in the wrong place when we met JJ. But from the Arc Farm meeting, we went on this journey to learn about the history of this Piscataway, to understand where they've been as well as where they are, to learn their history, the history of how they got to this area, as well as their current struggles for recognition. One of those struggles being the renaming of Indian Head Highway to Piscataway Highway. And most importantly, we learned about communities east of the river as well, as they also call this region home. And we hope this provides an opportunity for a continued conversation about community and how we can serve those who need help and assistance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey and Nicole. Our fourth art piece that we're very pleased and proud to share with you is our small business kiosk. With that, Anna.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Anna McCorvey. I'm an architect and the executive director of the River East Design Center and a very proud resident of the Anacostia neighborhood in Southeast DC. The River East Design Center is a community design center that was started in 2015 with the express purpose of serving Ward 7 and Ward 8 residents. Our mission is to empower underserved communities to shape their own environments. And we do this through educational outreach, like workshops and presentations and the like, and by offering our services as architects and designers. So we are really excited about the opportunity to work on the mobile kiosk and highlight local entrepreneurs and allow them to shape an inclusive business environment, not just around the park, but throughout the city. Our theme for this project is reflecting and connecting. We want small business owners to be able to connect with potential customers, and we want the history and culture of the surrounding neighborhoods to be reflected in the design. We identified some design principles that will guide us in the refinement of the design. Those are accessibility, flexibility, connectivity, reflecting the neighborhood, and color and texture. Next slide. So color and texture are abundant in Anacostia. These are just an example of some of the things that I see when I'm taking my walks around the neighborhood. We gravitated toward the linear language that you see in a lot of the wood siding patterns on a house. Next slide. We also use the form of a common housing type in the area as the inspiration for the form of the kiosks. And after sketching some other shapes that we observed in the area and creating a few new ones, we ultimately landed on a simple rectangular shape with a sloped top that is reflective of the sloped roof of a house. Next slide. So this is a concept image of the kiosk showing that linear finished material oriented vertically and with a window in the side that lets in light and allows those on the outside to see merchandise on the inside. Over this window is a metal panel, and right now you're seeing it with a map of the Anacostia River cut into it. This map is just a placeholder because we want to use this metal panel and the others that will be incorporated into the design to tell a story of the neighborhood. Throughout our outreach efforts, we will invite community stakeholders to design these metal panels with us. So the final design is truly a representation of the community. And as the kiosk will travel, not just along the bridge, but throughout the neighborhood, this throughout the city, excuse me, this story will also travel throughout the city. Next slide, please. So this image shows the front of the kiosk, and it's set up in somewhat of a food truck fashion with someone ordering at a transaction window, but it can also accommodate customers coming inside to shop. And this will allow it to be used by different kinds of businesses, and thus being in keeping with our design principle of flexibility. This image shows the kiosk at the Anacostia River Festival, so kind of its natural habitat, if you will. And we can't wait to see it at exactly these kinds of events just all around the city. Again, we're super excited to be a part of this work, and we can't wait to see all the projects come together. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. So before we, huge congratulations to all of the 4 artist teams. I can't wait, I can close my eyes and I can picture them all. For timing of all of these, the Hammock Grove, the Navy Yard light installation, the mural will be installed as we're getting ready to open the park. So at the tail end of the construction. So in early 2025, the small business kiosk, we're hoping to actually construct pending funding later this year, and fingers crossed, and it's a great slide to end with, Anna, will appear at our 2023 Anacostia River Festival. So we're very excited about that. Before we open up to questions and thoughts, I did want to ask one of our members of the Curatorial Committee, who's been involved in this process from the beginning, is actually several members are joining us, but I'd like to ask Nehemiah Dixon, who runs the Phillips collection here at the Arc, to share just a couple words about this experience being part of the Curatorial Committee, vetting the artists, and ultimately making these selections. So Nehemiah, great to have you join us.
Thank you, Scott. Oh, can I looks like I cannot turn my camera on, and that's okay. I am, extremely proud of the work that we've done together. Working with 11th Street Bridge and Forecast has been quite an extraordinary experience, being guided by Forecast in this sort of democratic process. Oh, I can join as a panelist.
There you are. And now you're muted.
I was just talking. Could you guys hear me earlier?
We could hear you earlier.
Oh, okay.
Picture popped up. We couldn't hear you. Good to see you, Nehemiah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this experience has been, great. As a former resident of DC and a native to Washington DC, and also a local artist, being part of this process. Working with colleagues from all across the DMV area is inspiring as a director of community engagement. Growing up in the area and seeing monuments appear and murals appear, I was always curious about how this process worked, and sort of in my role at the Phillips Collection and later in life, these days, it's just been a great experience to be a part of the process. But who was chosen to be on this committee, I think, was extremely important. Having high school students, local high school students, I think was an important factor. And in this experience, I often leaned on what their advice and looked towards their wisdom as people who are currently experiencing life in the Anacostia area. So, this was not a let the experts lead. It was a let's listen to what we all have to say and what we're all seeing, and make the best decisions for the city we love. So I don't know if there's any questions or anything else you want me to say, Scott.
No, thank you, Nehemiah. That was super helpful. It's really critical, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, of increasingly it's how do we have this decision-making power back in the hands of local residents? And as Nehemiah said, the conversations were rich, weren't they? Nehemiah, they were, you know, a community does not speak with one voice. No community does. And it was just incredibly rich. And we're just so thrilled to announce these next 4 art commissions. But with that, before I turn things over to Jessica to moderate Q&A, in addition, I know Nehemiah really called out at the beginning of the presentation forecast who helped us commission all of this. And I know Irfana Justinarani is also on and really was the brains behind organizing this larger commission. So a huge thank you to Irfana, our former deputy director here at the 11th Street Bridge Park, now a private consultant. So thank you. Jessica.
Yes, definitely. Thank you to everyone that has joined us. Thank you to the committee who worked to select these wonderful artists. I'm not sure if it was called out, but I believe over 60 pieces came in for review, and it just so happened that all of them are women that were selected, and so I think that deserves its own little hand clap to see women elevated into this space and to celebrate that as well. So good job, and awesome and amazing and very inspiring. If anyone has any questions, feel free to either use the raise hand feature at the bottom or use the Q&A feature to type in your question and we can ask it on your behalf. And if anyone sees any questions in the chat, please do let me know. But I would just like to pose a question to Nehemiah. Would you be able to share and maybe describe a little bit more of how the process or behind the scenes, how did it work in selecting these artists? Were there certain things that stood out to you all? But we would love to just hear more about that process.
You know, Forecast set up a really quite an excellent sort of rules of an engagement in the process. And I think that, you know, when all else fails, we went back to like what those metrics were. We had to answer questions about what we were seeing. And I think that helped guide us. And, you know, everyone that submitted work, you know, really, we got excellent work from across the city. And what I think made the group that you're seeing here rise to the top was our ability to like really honestly answer what we were tasked to do. And so, you know, kudos to area artists. This was like not an easy decision, but definitely those who you see here, you know, survived that process.
Things like museum health and safety protocols.
Thank you so much, Nehemiah. We have a question from Elliot Williams, and the request is, I was wondering if Sarita could explain a bit more how she plans to embed the "Yes, there is more here" message into the Hammock Grove project. Thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that like someone actually picked up on that little detail. I actually went and rode my bike and took that picture the day before we had to submit the final proposal for this. So it was just like universal alignment that I happened to be in the park. We had a break in the weather at the beginning of this year. I mean, it's been 100 degrees now, but it was a break in the weather at the beginning of this year when we were applying for this. We really want to take that message, like, the entry of Anacostia Park on that side is very uneventful, for lack of a better word. So we're so excited to actually be able to bring some aesthetic and invite people into that area. Our biggest intention really behind this is, you know, there are residents and there are people who use this place and love it and take such great care of it. And they're so welcoming to all different types of people who come through and use it. what we really want to do is uplift that and engage it at a higher level and with more investment. So yes, there's already more here. The people who are already there already know this. We want to take those same people, visit with them, hear their stories, take them, mold them into something that's a visual or image-based element, and have each of those 10 hammocks tell 10 different stories. And so when people are invited in to rest and to have reprieve and have relaxation and communion, there are 10 different stories that reflect 10 different parts of the city culturally and really uplift them. So the people who know that there's more here tell the story of what's more here so that more people can come in and be invited to use the space, invest in the space, and love the space in the way that's already loved. I'm so really excited that everyone here is really invested in not erasing or taking away and like covering up what's already there. You know, we're there to blossom it and morph it and just really invest in it. And that's really the message behind that.
Thank you, Sarita, and thank you, Elliot, for that question. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to submit it. But one thing that I just wanted to highlight from what everyone is sharing is really how all of the artwork sounds like it's really integrating the idea of community engagement, and where it's really pulling people into the space to create this art along with you. And I think that's a really beautiful aspect of this work. One of the questions that I would like to pose for people to become a little bit more familiar with you all as the artists, and some of you have already covered this in your presentation, but feel free to dive a little bit deeper into this. Are there any elements that inspired you outside of what you shared within your presentation that helped you to create this work? Or even while you were going through and doing this work, were there other pieces that kind of just continue to send you into a creative spiral for us to see what we are viewing now today? I don't know if someone wants to take that question. Nikki.
So I mean, I think we don't want to monopolize most of the time, because I'm sure everybody has lots of stories on why this project is really exciting. We just, Mickey told a little bit about how we ended up at the Arc when we were looking for the site where the mural was going to be produced. And it was a really exciting kind of coincidence, or sort of magical happenstance, because I really had my foray into public art and mural painting through a project that I did in 2010, where I painted portraits of people that I met in passing along around the city. And one of the people that I had painted is Mr. Keith Cook, who is one of the facility managers at the Arc. So when we showed up there, instead of turning around and getting out of the car, I said, let's see if this guy still works here. And we went in to find him. And he was actually the one who introduced us to JJ as somebody who might know a little bit about the residents in the area, and maybe be able to point us to somebody who we could have a conversation with. But it turned out that meeting JJ, it became abundantly clear from the story that Mickey was sharing about the pawpaw tree, and then just touring around the garden, that his story really deserved to be recognized, and is really intricately connected to the story of the Native people of the area that we're trying to tell in that care for Native species. I really like what you just said, Ariana, about not, covering over what's already there and beautiful, because, that idea of native plants, right? Like, you don't just rip things out that exist and plant more flowery, beautiful, ornamental things in its place. And so that kind of magical happenstance of running into the Arc, and then Mr. Cook and JJ and the native plants was really the inspiration for us in this project.
We also knew that there is a Piscataway Museum in Georgetown, but it's unfortunately closed until further notice due to COVID. But in front of the museum, they actually have an installation, an educational installation, where it shows you how much food is wasted in the area, how many residents are in the area, how many grocery stores they have access to. And essentially was kind of calling out for fresh food. And each of the residents, it's pillars, these pillars of waste, plastic waste, unhealthy food, what the residents are forced to consume due to a lack of fresh produce, a lack of opportunity. And on each pillar is a resident and their story, where they're from. There were one resident was, his family was from a Latin country, and coming here, he loves this area, but he also wants to have access to fresh food. One resident has history here as a Native American, and he wants people to understand that the land, that good things can come from growing your own garden. So when we saw that and we read the different stories and the different needs of mothers, fathers, and sons wanting to eat right, wanting to live a healthy life, but living in an area that currently doesn't allow them to always do that, we knew that we had to incorporate something in regards to that nods to eating something green, some of the plants, some native species. We knew that those had to be in the mural.
Thank you so much for sharing that inspiration. I think that adds even another level of depth to that mural. Like when we have the opportunity to see it in person and everything. And it sounds like this moment was many years in the making for you all, and you didn't even realize it. So I believe in alignment, and I think that's just absolutely beautiful alignment that we all are here in this moment, and the way that the history and the past and the present are all connecting in many of your artworks. I think it's just absolutely amazing. Not sure if anyone else wanted to share in these last few moments. I'll give it a few moments.
I'll share something real quickly. And it's kind of in keeping with Sarita's Yes, There's More Here image. One thing that really excited me about the kiosk is that, you know, I know firsthand just the plethora of entrepreneurs in the area that are doing amazing work. And the great, even street vendors that I pass by on a regular basis, walking throughout the neighborhood. And that this is going to be an amazing opportunity for them. And it made me think a little bit about I think an article I read some years ago. I think it was in the Post about the difficulty in getting vending space at some of the more popular markets in the area. And I know some of the difficulties of getting even into a storefront if you're, you know, ready to move into that position as a business person. And so that's the idea that the kiosk is removing some of those barriers for small business folks, I think is amazing.
Yes, thank you for calling that out. And like I have goosebumps just from hearing everything. And I really do think that could almost be the theme, is just that there is more here. And I'm really happy that all of the work is elevating that the natural beauty that's here, the talents that are here, and that we continue to just move forward with that. So I'm going to turn it back over to Scott to close us out. But if anyone who is joining us would like to learn more, please feel free to visit bridgepark.org/public art, and you'll be able to see a little bit more details and also just some of the artist information there. Scott?
Thanks, Jessica. Congratulations again to all of these 4 amazing art teams. Big hand claps. Can't wait to see all of this in person. The thanks again to Forecast, Fauna, the Nominating Committee, the Curatorial Committee that's participated in this process over the last 7-8 months. And if you are interested in doing a little deeper dive on reading our press release, seeing some of these images, learning more about the artists, we encourage you, I put this in the chat, but to go to bridgepark.org/public art. That's live as of 55 minutes ago. You will be able to see renderings and learn more about these artists. If you've got any questions about the park, about these artists, please reach out to either Jessica or myself. Jessica can be reached at jessica@bridgepark.org, or I can be reached at scott@bridgepark.org. That's scott@bridgepark.org. Shoot us an email, and thanks so much for joining us, and hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.